Welcome to the channel. So back in 2020, I began my journey of investing into property, or if you're watching this in the US, real estate. And for me, that was at the time a really daunting proposition. I think for anyone who's making their first step into the world of property investing, it's always going to be daunting because the capital needed to really start investing into property is much higher than it would be for investing into, for example, stocks. You can invest into stocks with a couple of pounds with today's trading platforms, whereas with property, even if you buy really cheap, property up north for 100 grand, you're still going to need a 25% deposit plus your fees. So, you're looking at like 30K just to get your foot in the door really with most property, at least here in the UK. And for me, it was really important to educate myself before taking that leap. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. 3 books on property, on real estate that you can read before making your first investment, just to give you the lay of the land and to make sure that you are comfortable in that decision. So without further ado, the first book I have today is this book here, a classic. I'm sure you've heard of this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book was really the book that I read, which was a huge light bulb moment for me. I think for a lot of people, this book is a light bulb moment book. Kiyosaki is very big on property, and the biggest lesson that I actually took from this book, because if you're watching this video, you're probably in a situation where maybe you're looking to make that first investment, maybe you've already made a couple of investments, and for anybody who has excess capital, there's always that conundrum. Do you spend the money, enjoy the money, have some holidays, buy a nice car, all of this stuff, or do you invest the money? And that's a big crossroads decision, I think, for a lot of people, if they decide to be smart and invest that money, or if they decide to do this and that with it. But the key thing for me was, hey, why not have the best of both worlds? Because if you invest into a property, that's then going to give you passive income that you can reinvest it if you want to, but you can spend that money how you want. And that was a really big eye-opener for me, was this concept of not spending your earned income, only spending money that has already worked for you. So for example, if you have 20 grand sat there, you could put that down as a car deposit, sure, and then you have a car, which is now a depreciating asset. Or you could save a little bit more, put that into a property, and then use the income from that property to pay for the monthly payments on your car. So the asset is now paying for the liability instead of just going straight into the liability. It sounds simple, but for me, that was a huge light bulb moment, and I'm super glad that I read that book. It has stayed with me ever since. I like to read it every now and again. I don't agree with everything in the book, but I think the sound fundamental principles of investing in assets and how important that is for your long-term wealth was really a huge lesson for me when I was a young, impressionable lad trying to read up about property. Next up, we have this book here, a great read, The Complete Guide to Property Investment. This was a fantastic book for me to read. It was actually, I listened to the podcast of the author, the Property Podcast, I believe it's called, really nice and simple. Great podcast, you should definitely listen to that podcast. The thing I love about this book is it's like a playbook, step by step, every step of the way in making a property investment, from doing your research to going through solicitors, mortgage brokers, where to purchase, and how leverage works, finance works, tradespeople, all of these elements, it covers it in this book. Super helpful, super practical, and one that I definitely recommend, especially if you're here in the UK, to read up before you make that first investment. Finally, we have this book here, a really cool book, Real Estate Titans. And basically what the author did for this book was he went just round the world and interviewed the top real estate titans, like people who are investing big money, millions or billions into huge developments. Super interesting book. And what this book really taught me, the lessons that it taught me, were around how property doesn't just have to be pure play investment. You can actually make it a business, and you can be very entrepreneurial with property if you want. And that's the great thing that I love about property, is you can have it as a really hands-off, completely hands-off investment. You can have it as kind of this midway thing where it's like, for the most part, it's hands-off in investing, and then there is kind of that business element to it. or you can make it extremely entrepreneurial and look at different strategies around adding value to properties, renovating properties, title splitting, all of these things that you can do. And that's definitely something, as I move forward in my property journey, that I'm going to be looking to do, because I think there's a lot of potential there to become really entrepreneurial in the property space and not just be a passive investor, which pretty much I am at the minute. I've designed my portfolio so it's quite hands-off. But I love property. It interests me a lot, and I would like to start making some more entrepreneurial moves into the space as time permits and as I grow in my journey as an investor. So I hope that was helpful. 3 very, very great reads if you're thinking about getting into property. It is a fantastic investment class in my opinion, because you get the best of both worlds. You get generally the capital appreciation. If we look back over the last 200 years, property has performed very, very well. But at the same time, the thing that's really motivating about property as an investment is that every single month you're getting paid. Every single month you're collecting rent. So you actually see that tangible income coming in every month. And that's why I love property. And for me, it is my biggest investment vehicle and something that I am very, very passionate about. So I hope that was helpful. Until next time, all the best and take care.